Greetings, ladies and mental gents, and welcome to my channel, where I like to make audio narrations of various stories from the internet. In this video, we'll be focusing on a story from the subreddit HFY, called Regal Eagle Legal's Dirty Laundry, a collection of short stories, Volume 1, written by Regal Eagle. The link to the original will be down below. And as always, I hope you enjoy. Part 1. When the consortium approached the planet, they had worries about finding someone who could help them. Their army was most highly advanced technological wonder of the modern galaxy, but they lacked a proper commander. Despite their brilliance with engineering, they suffered from a lack of ability to multitask, and, as such, their mighty drone army was for naught if they couldn't even find the right leader. When they started to observe the planet's various broadcasts, however, they couldn't believe their luck. Is it really that simple? The greatest simulator we could ever dream of, and their speed. But, they're so expressionless. Would we be better served by simply making our own AI? We don't have the time. These people have created their own organic AI, clearly. That must do what the simulator is for. To develop the perfect commander for a robotic army just like your own. They were thinking to the future, starting their own training programs now, so when their technology catches up, they will be ready. I remain skeptical. We don't have another choice. They prepared the special room and set up a command terminal in such a manner that this strange being could be able to understand it. When he woke up after the abduction, he calmly rose in a strange yet clean room, looking around for the moment the figure got up, and then he simply sat down at the command console. "Hark, young species! Do not be afraid. Your new surroundings. You have been selected amongst many worthy beings on your planet to serve as our commander of our robot army. We've been searching across the galaxy for... Oh, you've already figured out how to start it up? Well, I should explain to you." There was a hushed talking in the background, as the chosen champion had already completed the tutorial that they had expected to take 20 minutes, and after many questions on his part. Perhaps we should give you control of some small colony force then. You see, we've been attacked by our ancient enemy wow, how are you so quick?" The announcer shut up, and then, as the others crowded around to watch the screens, I see no emotion on his face. Yes, but look at the obvious control he has over the drones. It's simply marvelous. Why didn't he ask us where he was, or what we were fighting for? I don't know. None of this was in our projection. They watched on a combination of shock, awe, and amazement as the young species was able to control their vast drone army far better than any of their own kind could ever have. They had kept the mission small at first, to make sure that this wasn't just a fluke. But indeed, they were soon pressing the enemy back across all fronts whenever they let their new commander take control. Production was up across the sector. New automated factories were being produced daily. The legions, more of their robotic soldiers, kept marching forth. Their ancient enemy was enraged. How could they push us back so decisively across the entire sector? Their pitiful commanders haven't posed much of a threat before. What has changed? They perform tasks with mechanical precision, not to mention their ability to seemingly be everywhere at once. This is surely the work of some new combat AI that they've designed. Absurd. Their scientists were months away from completing any such project. Then how would their scientists have been able to accomplish such success? "Gentlemen," a smooth voice of the spy master oozed through the air to stop the arguing and bickering. "My sources tell me that they've found an organic AI on a planet of less advanced beings. Through some sort of eugenics program, they've been breeding commanders capable of controlling these vast armies with surprising ease. Then we're doomed. We did not invest in a similar drone army and combat them. We need to make our own. They'll defeat us before that day comes. No, I have a plan. My sources have informed me that the surefire way to defeat these organic AIs, they can build up a tolerance over time, but we will strike, surely to give our own engineers more time to build and prepare. The plan was set into motion. Then, as the drone army began to be engaged in all across the front, on many different planets and through the far reaches of space, the drone soldiers and automated ships engaged in frantic battle. As expected, the drones were winning, their leader able to keep everything moving and operating far more smoothly than any ordinary sentient being should be able to do. But what they didn't realize was their old enemy had a spy within their organization. The food that was prepared for the champion followed very strict guidelines so that they could ensure that he was healthy and energetic for the fight. Well, not energetic as he never actually showed emotion, but at least healthy and not sleepy. But the spy had substituted one of the main dishes for him in the midst of the battle raging across the sector. He picked up the tainted food, eating it before realizing what was going on. The drone started to falter. The enemy was able to start pulling off tactics that didn't make any sense and flew in the face of the battle that they'd been waging one another so far. The builders of the mighty robot army gaped in dismay and panic. What's going on? Why are we starting to lose? Look, the organic AI commander. Is he choking? Something's wrong. Sure enough, the robot army was soon defeated, though, as the great cost of their enemy. Both sides would need time to rebuild while their builders tried to find out what had happened. The champion was dead in his chamber. It's just as I feared. It was a cheese strategy that the enemy employed. Oh no. The organic AI's only weakness. Cheese. There was much clamoring and sorrow over the loss of both the army and the commander. They needed to find out who had betrayed them, but they also knew that the enemy was building their own drone army. It would not only be a race to see who could rebuild first, but to find something that even the eugenics program on that lesser developed planet had not yet created. We need to find a Korean who's immune to cheese. And so, the Cold War rages on, with alien species trying to guide the eugenics program to create the truly ultimate commander. One who is immune to cheese. Part 2. Commander Ryan Moss arched a brow as he looked at his counterpart in the Union of Allied Planets. So far, the Confederation of Earth was not part of the Galactic Union, but they were on the very good terms with them as they approached acceptance. So when the General Class 10 distress call had gone up from the nearby Xena system, the CNE had scrambled together an assortment of their faster ships and sent them off to assist. The bugs had been quiet lately, and the Baphorat had still electing a High Speaker. Plus the Curson Empire was busy fighting a rebellions, so he wondered what threat could require a Class 10 call. Human frigates and cutters were known to be the fastest in the galaxy. No other civilized species had evolved on such an ocean-heavy planet, and the cultural drive towards sailing and navies hadn't been strong amongst the other species. So, when mankind rose up to the stars and found out most efficient way to move about in the system was to use solar sails, they quickly flourished, favoring small, quick ships that could dodge in and out of asteroid fields and ride the solar winds at speeds other species simply couldn't manage. They'd been the first to respond to the distress call because of this. So, now the Commodore was staring at a stiff-necked, hard-shelled Gargan before him, while the colony orbital defense system. Could you repeat that? Space dragons. You issued a level 10 distress call, which is supposed to be a signal of a major invasion and a call for help from all friendly military vessels, and you did so because one of your scouts think that they saw a space dragon. Yes, that is correct. You didn't even confirm it. No one has ever made such a report maliciously, and almost all reported sightings lead to confirmed sightings. This is a various threat, Commodore. For a space dragon. Are you not aware of their history? I've never heard of them before. I suppose it must have been too long since the last incursion, when you were not yet amongst the stars. Do your people have a myth about dragons? Yeah, ancient legends from back on Earth. All sentient species had ancient myths about similar creatures. They travel amongst the stars wreaking havoc and destruction, and they bring death and strife where they land. We, like you, dismissed it as a legend and lore until they approached us when we were spacefaring. They're a very real, Commodore. They fly the solar winds better than any ship. Well, better than our ships. I don't know about yours. And they fly through colonized sectors, destroying and consuming as they go. Has anyone ever tried to talk to them? They aren't intelligent like that. Not that we've seen. We maintain a strict policy of aggression towards them to keep them away from the colonies. They only understand force. What sort of creature are we talking about here? Size? The wingspan is about that of one of your frigates. Seriously? And it's strong enough to fight warships? Indeed. They start a full-scale incursion, they're known to rip entire fleets apart. And ever since the beginning you've just been fighting them? We tried in the early days to keep them out of our system by talking, but they ignored us and attacked. And that's it. One attempt. The level of destruction they wrought upon us was answer enough. Moss rubbed his chin and thought. They was answering a distress call in good faith. They had no legal obligations to the UAP. Helping them attack these space dragons would probably put them in the fast track to membership. But the story had been given didn't just sit right somehow. Has anyone tried to ride them? Pardon me, Commander. Ride the space dragons. Why would we ever try something like that? So you've never tried it? No. Well, I'm gonna start recon then. See if I can find these space dragons of yours. Thank you, Commodore. Don't take them lightly. Humans might not have fought them before, but I assure you they're deadly. Moss took his leave out of the Gargans then, deep in thought as he returned to his frigate. His blue uniform and white uniform completely with the diamond sphere that pulled over his head. Hearing the soft hiss as it steeled into place, he stood on the other side of the atmosphere barrier, looking at his ship through the slowly shimmering field. The white-gold Sea frigate never ceased to fill him with pride. The main hull was long half-cylinder with a helm of the rear, the full mast rising up out of the center, while the two smaller masts extended out from the bottom sides of the hull. These points of the three masts would form a triangle when viewed dead-on. Most Xenos use bulky ships with automated sail controlled by machinery. They'd hide in the hull, away from the void. Humans instead had their uniforms built with those diamond sphere helmets as they crawl along their vessel. And while they all knew that it was impossible, any sailor would tell you that they felt the solar winds flowing over their body as they did this. This was the human advantage, running up and down the masts, unfurling and tucking as they needed. The Xenos couldn't respond as quickly with their automated machines. Moss saluted his XO on the other side of the atmosphere barrier. Permission to come aboard. Permission granted, Commander. He nodded and walked out into the void of space, his boots clumping along the magnetic soles. He hopped off the boarding plank down onto the hull of the ship and nodded at the XO. Get the other captain on the horn. I have to explain what the hell is going on, and it's kind of confusing. It took him a good hour to explain to everyone that they were here for, and to settle them down on the prospect that meeting ancient creatures that had visited Earth all that time ago. But soon the fleet was heading towards the system's asteroid belt. The space dragons had been spotted along the belt where it bordered a nebula that dominated part of the system. The thick clouds would be perfect for obscuring their presence, but that still implied intelligence. Moss wasn't entirely convinced that he needed to shoot on sight. The ships had fanned out, keeping within range of the tight beam. They trying to stay as far apart as possible in order to observe as much territory as possible. The crews and the ships manning the sails, keeping watch, although the journey from the inner system out to the asteroid belt would take at least a day. And that was amongst the fastest ships the C&E fleet had to offer. The sailors flew through the dark void of space, kept company by each other, and the shanties that they would sing to pass the time. changing shifts, getting some fresh air and pressurized hull, or rather slightly less stale recycled air. A bit of a grog and some time in the bunk before the next shift had moved in to take their place and make it back into the sails. When they finally reached the asteroid belt, the fleet broke up formation. Each ship had been assigned to a section to start patrolling, ready to break for the rendezvous point if they found one of these supposed space dragons. It would be another 3 days before the UAP ships who had responded to the distress call would make it to the inner system, and Commodore Moss hoped to have some sort of contact by then. In fact, it was less than a day before the cutter saw something. "Hard to starboard," Lieutenant Moss called out. Audrey Moss was Commander's niece, and she'd gotten the position on her own skills, which showed as the cutter had a veer hard around the asteroid that had been knocked into the path suddenly. "Hard port," she then called out afterwards, in the spinning of the wheel to avoid the massive creature that swept up front of the ship. The wingspan was so far wider than her little cutter, and then the look of talons and none too appealing. The creature seemed to notice the cutter as it dipped down below a section of spinning asteroid, and it turned, showing almost as full maneuverability as the little cutter, despite being far larger in size. The sails clung to the riggings and the masts for dear life, as the lieutenant had to keep the cutter moving steadily, bobbing and weaving between the asteroids as they were chased by the winged creature from behind them. It seemed close to catching them at times, but she'd steer hard and around the rock and make it veer away at risk of collision. Finally, she spun the ship, guiding it between two rocks that they weren't very far apart, leaving their predator for a brief moment of surprise before it slammed into one. They gave it some time, however, and the captain used it. "Bosun, give me that climbing hook and that diamond filament. Quickly, I'll need this." She jerked one of the boarding harpoons from her chest of her XO and stepped up. "Sir, what's the plan?" "Keep that thing from eating my ship. I'll be right back." She ran to the edge of her ship and leapt into the void, firing the harpoon as she did, quickly pulling herself to one of the asteroids. She knew that the creature would have to pass by if it kept chasing her ship. So she tried the filament to the climbing hook and another section around her waist before spinning the hook over her head and letting it fly into the open space before her. It looked like for a second like she'd been wrong. Then the massive figure flew in front of her, snagging the small hook as it jerked her free of the asteroid and into space. She couldn't help but laugh as she found herself dragged behind the creature. Massive wingspan, craggy reptilian features, a long tail, talons. It certainly fit all the mental ideas that she had for a space dragon. She caught on to the tail before it could whip her body around and started to pull herself up along the body. The skin was rather rocky, yet smooth. It seemed to her reminder of an armadillo like back on Earth. Either way, she could see her ship ahead, just narrowly avoiding the dragon she was currently climbing over. The path along its spine, between the massive flapping wings, was hardly an easy time, but she made it and is soon inching her way over the neck. The climbing hook had been lodged into the small crevice along the spine, which she had shoved in a little further to make sure that she had a good secure hold before she continued further until she found a small groove behind the skull. Taking a deep breath of her canned air, she pulled two small hooks from her belt and then leaned forward, digging them under some of the creature's scales, just along the spine. The creature jerked at that and seemed to veer away from her ship, clearly startled by the sensation. That's when something strange happened. She heard it from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "What is this? What has burrowed into my neck?" The captain of the ship that you're chasing. I want you to stop." The creature slowed, flapping its huge wings before it seemed to stop in parts. "What are you? No creature has ever dared to try this before." "I am Lieutenant Audrey Moss, Confederate Nations of Earth, Navy, and I am your rider." There was a pause. The creature tried to turn its head to see her, but she was stuck right into the back of its skull. "This..." Suddenly, the voice got quiet. "Is acceptable. Earth. Humans, yes. Oh, such time has passed since we visited. Your planet had such wonderful storms, the lightning and thunder. Oh, the ring of fire around that great ocean. Such a place to watch and fly. Your people were so curious. You've made it far since the small time, little one. So you are intelligent. The Gargians said that you were just violent beasts. Yeah. In their tough shells and their deep warrens and their boring little ball of dirt. Only dust storms, no majestic. Those who travel space fear us. When we flew back, so many saw our talons and speed and assumed us a threat. They told us not to fly through their space. Those who challenge us directly best be prepared for a direct response. But you let me ride you now. Yes. Oh, how long we've waited for someone to try. I was taken by your ship. I see your people crawling along the outside, in the void itself. I feel the solar winds over your body. It's such a joy, is it not? Are there more of you? Many. In the clouds of the nebula, we prepare for another flight, either to provoke those who fear us or to draw out those who inspire. It seems that our plan has worked. Marvelous. How long we've waited. Come, there will be soon a storm. We must ride it. No. I need to get back to my ship. Hold on. She looked around her until she spotted it. Once the dragon had stopped it and began to circle them again. Taking a small device from her belt, she clicked it a few times in the direction of the ship. The cutter soon flew close enough as she jumped back aboard to refill her oxygen and tell them to get ready to inform the rest of the fleet. 5 days had gone by. The Gargians had prepared to mourn the human fleet. We have had no contact since they've entered the asteroids. They are surely slain by now. May their sacrifice not be in vain. Admiral Koresh was saying when the breathless scout rushed into the room. Sir, the humans, they return and they're flying the space dragons. They're what? End of story. If you enjoyed this story and wish to support the author, the link is down below. If you would like to support this channel, there are numerous ways to do so. They will also be listed in the description down below. But the easiest way to help this channel is to share it, subscribe, and like. And, as always, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope that you have a good one. Cheers!